Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So do you have the questions pulled up that people
Yes, I
want
do.
to ask? Okay.
Yes,
So
I do.
you lead this off. You start this off. I actually been filling the script. Thank you so much for sending me a script. I can't work without a script.
Of course. I know how
Um,
my co-host is, man. It's all good.
you had a lot of spelling mistakes.
Yeah, probably. I mean, I was typing it at work, so.
Okay. So,
But ladies and
I'm not.
gentlemen, non-binary friends and pals, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, all the other holidays in between. It is your boy Brian Williams alongside the most handsome man, or one of the most handsome men in this bitch, B17, aka Adam. Today we are back yet again with Let's Chat OCW. And dude, I'm so excited. It's been over a month since we have been able to sit down and chat with one another. Last time we had a Let's Talk OCW, we had lovely Junko and Jim on. Now it is back to just me and Adam. So Adam, how you doing, man? How are your holidays?
I had a great holiday. Things went really freaking well for me. Nice and quiet the last couple of days, like getting things out of the way and then chilling out with the family. So yesterday was magnificent. What about you? You had a good one?
Oh, yes, absolutely. It was a very good time. And now that the holidays are winding down, I'm able to focus on other things such as Let's Talk OCW and other OCW matters. With that, obviously, me and Adam try and do this as frequently as we can. So we're going to start off this show before our main topics. I asked the OCW Discord if there was any questions that they had to, leave them for us. Starting those questions off comes from Gooch, and they asked, what do you think was FLE of the year? And do you think it should be its own category for the end of the year awards? Adam, do you want me to start and answer that one, or do you want to take it away?
You go ahead because I hadn't seen the questions beforehand, so I got to think about this for a second.
I think FLE of the year is a tough one. I think so. I'll answer the last part of that question first. I do think it should have a category of its own for the end of year awards because there is just so much work that goes on within the OCW sphere that I think sometimes we are such a well-oiled machine that it is just go, 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 go. And then you look back and you realize like everything that we've accomplished over the year, and it's truly something insane. I would have to say it's probably going to be a cop-out answer. I would have to probably go with Lucian would probably be the FLE of the year, at least for me. If we were going a non like big three, pay-per-view, I would have to either say On Deadly Ground or probably Hard Target, but my initial one is absolutely going to be Resolution 18.
Yeah, it's kind of hard not to say Resolution 18 because of how much we get excited for that and how much build goes into that. I remember certain moments standing out more so than others. I was gonna say Hard Target, like that. I don't know why that one stood out for me so much more than any others. Maybe because of recency bias and stuff. But the amount of effort that goes into getting Resolution, like I really like the idea of it being like the end of the season. Like that categorically is we build towards it, and then we go all out, and it really feels like afterwards everybody takes a collective breath, and we're like, okay, we made it, we're done. We for a little bit here, we get a little bit of a break and whatnot. So it's really hard not to say that one, especially because I know like every single year is kind of funny. Jay will say this was like the best resolution ever, and then he does the well, maybe it wasn't as good as 15.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't as good as 15, but it was still good. Like that's how it always goes. Like every year we get so excited for it. The only other one I'd say would be Hard Target potentially. So, what's the next question?
It's funny you say that. So Jim, leading into something that you mentioned, Jim asked, there has been a lot of discourse about when Resolution should be on the calendar. When do you feel that should be? I have an assumption that you and I are probably going to agree on that. So with that, I'm going to let you lead on your answer for this one.
Well, the reality is I don't care particularly when it happens, when it falls. I'm not particularly familiar with the game schedule and when it comes out. I do like the idea of resolution being like the final thing, but I also recognize that people are pretty burnt out with the game by the end of the gaming cycle, so having it in the middle is fine. I actually think it's fine where it is, honestly. And it can be changed earlier, later. It doesn't really matter to me too much. My main problem usually revolves around its Lucian, and then summer side seems really close to it. Like it seems to happen really quickly. I would like there to be a bigger gap between those two things. So that's my answer is a non-answer. It doesn't really matter to me. I just hope that there's more room between those really two big pay-per-view events.
I totally get where you're coming from with that. I'm a little bit more I'm in agreement with you on one part of it. I was at first a really big person of wanting it to end the season just because I was in total agreement with you where, it's the end of the season. This is our big culminating event and then, we get to breathe. All right, cool. Let's regroup and do what we got to do afterward. But I do understand the other side where, it's like by the time, so the game usually comes out around March. So just so you know that. So if, we're doing Lucian around March, I can definitely understand, especially with 2K24, why people are probably more against that just because, the game has been very rough this year for us. I would have to say for any type of community trying to utilize this game's online features as consistent as we do, it has probably been one of the worst experiences I've personally had. I can't speak for others, but I I would like to either see it at the end, which I'm almost certain at this point it's probably not going to happen just because of all of the discourse around it. So if it was like a middle point or, something like that, I wouldn't mind. My biggest gripe is kind of what you mentioned. I do not like how the last couple of years we have done Lucian right into Summerside. And obviously, I, to a degree, I don't fully blame the planning of this because I understand it's hard trying to adjust an entire schedule because the game used to be getting released. I think it was in like October or November, and now it's getting pushed 5-6 months after the fact into March. So that really does throw a wrench into everything. But as long as it's put in somewhere where it realistically makes sense for it, and we kind of just lock it in and just start locking in the pay-per-view schedule to where you know hypothetically it's like, okay, boom, January is always going to be anniversary or December is always going to be anniversary, and we know October or September is going to be Lucian or whatever, just something to lock it in to where there's no more wondering of like, okay, what's the next show that we're building to.
Okay. Yeah, I do agree with you. This game, it really sucks it out of you. It really does. I got to that point not too long ago, actually, and I needed to take a break from the game.
Mhm.
Um, just because of how I actually timed it out one week. I'm like, I'm just going to keep track of how much time it takes me to get into these matches
Mhm.
versus actually playing the matches. And the amount of time spent trying to get into matches is just tremendously skewed in a horrible way that it just takes so much effort out of you. There's glitches to deal with. The community creations has been glitching out. I tried coming back just the last couple of days. Like, okay, it's time to get back to playing a little bit more, and trying to DM has been a nightmare. It was 3 days straight of couldn't connect with anybody, and that just wears you out. It's like, oh my god, this is not fun. Like, why am I playing this game right now? So I went back to taking a little break, waiting for people to start reporting that things are getting stable again, and then I'll get back to playing regularly and doing what I gotta do for OCW. But this game has been rough. Yes, the gameplay of it, I actually don't mind the gameplay of it, but the actual process of dealing with the servers and the content creation, like all those things, is problematic right now, which obviously drags people down, and maybe might even account for why people are arguing so much. I don't know.
Hey, that's totally fair. Um, our next question, it was from Junko. I think it was this. it was this list of things that you, Adam, put. We're not going to answer those right now. We'll probably answer those as the last ones, just because there's about like 9 or 10 of them, and we can just kind of like fire them off, or maybe just take a little bit extra time on them.
Okay.
So we'll put a check mark in Junko. But what we're going to do next is we have a question from Bolek. This year we've had lengthy championship reigns. Why do you think that is? So I took it upon myself, and I think you also are probably doing the same thing. I went and looked at all of the current active championships that we have within OCW. And I don't, so why do I think that is? I think there's two different ways to answer this question. So I would say for the world championships, I just think right now, like before Deborah lost the women's world championship, she was on a generational run. She was on a run that I don't honestly see anyone breaking. I think that reign is going to be untouched for a long time, or the rest of OCW's history. B17 as well. He is slithering up to a historic reign yet again. Like, he's already doing a historic reign, mind you, but B17 is very, very close to not only shattering his record of the CCW title reign, but also the all-time CCW title reign with Antonio Everett. So I think with that is just, I don't want to say dedication, but that's just old man coming back in his bag and proving the youngsters wrong. The OCW championship, Al Parka has just kind of been, as some people have been saying, on his best run. And I think we're noticing that with the stability, because as it was mentioned last time, after Al Parka got his 4th world championship defense, that is the first time a world championship has been defended more than 3 times in 4 years. And this is also coming up to be soon to be the longest reign in the last 2 years for the world championship. Then it gets a little bit weirder for me when it comes to the North American Championship, the International Championship, the Women's Pride Championship, and the Unified Tag titles. I'll start with the tag titles first. Mass Effect, off of this record keeping that we have from our lovely historian, Mass Effect only held the tag titles for 166 days. And I know it's kind of funny, but to me, that is not a long reign for the tag titles. But me and Adam also were around when CQC, Lucha Country, and Sanctum were around. And all 3 of those teams literally had over a year combined for the reign. So I think right now the tag division is in a wonderful spot where teams are able to come in, hold the titles for a couple months, elevate themselves, elevate the division, they lose, and then the next team can take it on. With the Women's Pride Championship, Suplex was the only one that held it for a considerable amount of time. She held it for 215 days. Outside of the random Discord argument that was completely unnecessary about defending the title, I just think it was kind of a weird scheduling mishap with Sue not defending for a little bit. And then, she kind of started racking up defenses and doing stuff. So that was also a part of it. And then the North American Championship, I'll touch on the international title last. The North American Championship has probably seen the most stability we've seen after, unfortunately, Telos lost the title in the season opener, which was probably one of the most heartbreaking things for me to see. I think it was like a 6 or 7 year odyssey. Dude finally wins a title and loses it the first defense. Really heartbreaking. Telos, I love you. If you're listening, I hope you come back. But we had C-Note, who held it for 134 days, and C-Note did his best with the title. I absolutely think C-Note elevated the shit out of the North American Championship. C-Note was almost there to being the longest reigning NA champ of the modern era. Victor Carmine still holds that. And then C-Note had that, the back and forth feud with Jinx, where, he lost the title, and then he tried running it back and getting his title back, and he was unable to. I think both of those guys as handlers are some serious top dogs. So the competitive nature in that regard was absolutely money on how they fought with one another. And then the International Championship, or the Legends Championship, plus Rust Cole and Bolek, that has kind of been in a funky spot because ever since Antonio lost that championship, every single champ that has held it has either not defended it or gotten one defense and then lost it thereafter. And I think it was once again kind of in a lull spot because of the Legends four-way feud. You know, you had the tag match, you had a bunch of these matches in between one another. So Mugen, outside of Antonio, has had the longest reign in the last, calendar year with 132 days. And now Nate's the champ. He defended it against Mugen, so we will see where that goes. Adam, what do you feel about this? A very lengthy championship reigns. Why do you think that is?
I actually feel like there's a bit of a narrative that gets said over and over and over again. It kind of becomes the gospel that people accept. Um, I don't actually feel like we've had very long championship reigns outside of a few exceptions. But I also, let me ask you an opinion before I go into my little rant here.
Sure.
Do you feel that there are titles that it's more appropriate that they pass hands more frequently?
Ooh, that's a good one. I would say lately, yes, just the international championship, but not a lot of the other titles. I feel like a lot of the other titles really, maybe the world title, the OCW World Championship as well, and how that was kind of flipping around a little bit, not really having a standout, stable champion reign for a bit. But the international championship for sure right now is that one where you see a bunch of people win it and they just cannot keep their hands on it.
Right, but what I'm asking is, let's use the tag team championships.
Yeah.
If they were to jump around like nonstop,
Mm-hmm.
I would have no quarrels with it.
I'd love that.
To me, it would be a very unpredictable place in a division that can be very unpredictable because the nuance of working with two people,
Mm-hmm.
that person might be off their game one day,
Mm-hmm.
and then they get pinned, and then the tags champions, they have it, and it's much harder to remain consistent within that division, in my opinion. CQC spoiled us, right? So we've been spoiled with that tag division. Like, if I saw the tag title jumping around, I'm not going to bat an eye at it. Like, it's not even going to be something that I think twice about. It's going to be fun for me.
Oh, okay.
That's my point.
I'm sorry. I misunderstood you. Yes, I'm in firm agreement with you, especially about the tag titles, because like you just said, I think CQC, Lucha Country, Sanctum, those three teams held that when they were holding those titles, they were unstoppable. And I think to a degree that was a detriment to some of these divisions because people are probably looking from the outside in and are like, well, dude, I can't beat this team. So what am I supposed to do about this? With that, I would even say I don't mind when even the men's mid-card championships, the North American and the international, I think when those flip around to a degree, it's also good because it's like, oh man, like anyone can come in and take these. But after a little bit, I do want that person to come in, stabilize the championship, and elevate themselves, elevate the championship, and then when the time comes, they lose it, and then whatever happens after they lose it, well, it's no longer on them. They did their part. Now it's up to the next group of people to do the same.
Right, and when somebody in the mid card titles is able to hold it for an extended period of time, that's the confirmation that they're ready to go to the next level. From my perspective, so I'll go ahead and answer the question. Unified tag titles like Mass Effect 166, 3 defenses is good. Like it's not a particularly long reign, but neither is it an overly short reign. So what they did was impressive for what their tag team division should be able to produce.
Mm-hmm.
Relatively. People developing, finding their footing. Some teams are being thrown together. The pivot's the example right there. Like a tag team comes together, they find their character, they develop their character. So nothing to be said in regards to that tag reign. The idea of the Pride Championship, Dragana fighting Junko recently, things are appropriately trending the right direction. I have no problems with that. I think that Dragana is going to be a perfectly fine championship. The women's title is kind of where I can divert from saying everything's great. Things are amazing here. Things are spectacular here. The Deborah title reign is an anomaly, but I'm not going to say that it'll never be broken again. I don't think you should ever say never with OCW. Like, there's always going to be somebody who's able to push the boundaries. It's funny that it was able to go so long, considering that the narrative I spoke of is this game is so, what's the proper word for
Volatile.
it? Volatile. There we go. That's a great word for it. Yes.
Word?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me get a dictionary out. No, it's such a volatile game, and it has been for years. So the idea of Deborah getting to 446 days with 9 defenses is something really special that goes against the narrative that it's hard to hold on to the title for an extended period of time. And the women's title actually has had some people hold it for a significant amount of time. You know, Furiosa in 2022 made over 200 days. Jasmine, regardless how you want to talk about that, held it over 150 days. Like, it's been very well taken care of. Deborah elevated it to, it's not just the women's title anymore. It is a world title.
Yes.
Which is where it deserves to be now. Like, it deserves to be held in reverence.
Yes.
Like, the idea that you are carrying the legacy of a title that someone held for so long with 9 defenses, it is meaningful. So that one, I love long reigns with the world titles, and I'm okay with shorter reigns when you get to the international titles and the North American titles. But the women's title finally making that jump to get somebody over 300 days, because that's kind of the 300 is the magic number. Yep. I don't know why 300 is the magic number. I think it's the magic number because nobody could get to that number for the longest time. So 300 is the magical number, and someone broke that ceiling and shattered it. So now the women's title is a clear-cut, on the same par world title, and Empress has it right now. What more could you ask for? And the whole, people getting upset about Bertha fighting, like, same thing with me in the international title. I wasn't upset because it's not my choice. Like, I'm not involved in that decision. So I usually remove myself and say, I'm just a fan. I'm just spectating. And I was entertained. So, the international title, the idea of Nate Ortiz having it, to me, seems fun. Like, if you look at all the other title divisions, you have new challengers, you have fresh challengers. The fact that this kind of is becoming the Legends title, and it's not going to stay that way forever. Like, it is going to change. That's the nature of wrestling. Things go through transition and change all the time. This is not an obscure thing. This is not something that just randomly has happened and never has happened in any other promotion around the world. This is something that's happened before. John Cena's run being prime example that I can think of top of my head. I think that this one, I think it's kind of funny that nobody seems to be able to hold on to it for a defense or more than one defense. So, I'm looking back. The last one that I got back to was Owen, 0 defenses, and then Bullock, 1 defense, but it shouldn't count because it was a DQ. So, Russ Cole, 0, Mugen, 0, Nate Ortiz, 1. Like, there's unpredictability there. I like that. I'm okay with that. I think that is fun. And the fact that the Legends are in that one right now, and passing it back and forth, I have no qualms with that whatsoever, because eventually the end result is going to be a younger talent breaks in and breaks all that up, and they'll get that rub. Yep. Then they'll have to hold it.
Yes.
North American, this one's been pretty stable. Like, there's not much you can say. Like, Victor held it for 146 days, 4 defenses, and then, yes, Telos lost it pretty quickly, but then C-Note held it for over 100 days, Jinx holds it for over 100 days. Like, the NA title is in a fantastic spot, very happy with that division and what's happening there. I can tell you exactly how I got to 300 days, and over 300 days, it's pure spite. Like, it's absolutely fucking pure spite.
Right.
And you're one of the people who drove that pure spite.
I don't know what you're even talking about.
You are one of those people. You publicly came out and were talking smack about the CCW title. And I just sat there. I didn't respond. I'm just like, okay.
Festering.
I was mad. I was irate. I was pissed off. I'm like, nope, it's okay. Just breathe. And then you start he's doing a nostalgia run. He's just back for the nostalgia. I'm like, okay. Okay. And I started, like, it was good for me. Like, I probably needed to hear that because it wasn't intended. This entire situation was not intended. Like, I came back and I was still apprehensive about, like, being back and, like, the game itself and all these other elements. So I was getting my ass kicked regularly. Like, I really was. And I started to get a little bit better. I played Rust. I played Mark Reese and stuff. And nobody was really saying anything about me. Like, yeah, you know, Adam's back. He's just having fun. He's just getting some matches in. And then I found myself in a position. And I'm like, oh, shit. I have to do better. Like, I got to get better at this. And then you started talking smack. And I got so angry. I'm like, I'm not going to let this stand. I am not going to let this be a nostalgia run. So I started practicing nonstop, started playing nonstop. I started learning the game mechanically, started really thinking about how I should be playing the game and all the elements and learning the ins and outs like I had known in 2K19. So I started to do that. And then, like, even then I'm like, it's going to be competitive. It wasn't until the Antonio Everett match at Lucian where I said, oh, I'm actually doing something here.
He's like, I'm back.
I'm like, oh shit, I can't believe this. So I started playing a little bit more, getting a little bit more consistent, and just kept going. And then I heard, then it really got pushed over the edge. You made a mistake. You told me, yeah, I went and told them. I told some people, I'm going to kill him in the tag match. I'm going to kill him in the tag match. And you did. And you fucking killed me in the tag match. I'm like, oh, the son of a fucking, I can't believe this because you killed me. And that was my wake-up call. That was my, I have to get even better. I know that happened before the Antonio, but like I started playing. I started learning a lot more after that and it just became spite. I'm like, I have to do this. I have to get better. And then 300 came in the range. I'm like, oh yeah, I got to get to this. So it's always goal oriented. Like it used to be, I'm going to spite Parka and anybody else who says this is a nostalgia run. And then it became, I'm going to get to 300 because that's the magical number. And now it's like, okay, what's the next goal? Right. So that's where I'm at. Pure spite got me to this one. And it's most of it because of you. And I'm very thankful to you, but I'm also like, this motherfucker.
Hey man, so, I mean, I'm here to keep making you be better, you know? That's why you need me here. In reality, people think like Rex is your greatest rival, but they don't talk about the guy in the corner, you know, the shadow that looms over you that's constantly talking shit, and it's me.
It wasn't just you. Jay is also one of those people. Like,
yeah. I don't know why Jay comments though, because he has no idea how to even use his thumbs on this game. So it's like, my man needs to put more respect on. See, I kicked the shit out of you, so I'm allowed to say these things to you. You know, like Jay can't even pick up a controller and look at it and know what he's doing.
Oh my god, I'm actually shaking because I'm thinking back to that match and just remembering not knowing how to feel. Like, oh my god, I am the CCW champion. I just got wrecked. This is not a good look, and I have to do better. Like that was the thoughts,
right,
and everything. So yeah, so Jay, you know, did the whole commentary. Is he washed up? Does he still got it? That doesn't happen in commentary anymore. So it was pure spite, and I'm happy to have done it. Like I had a lot more fun with this run than I had with the last one. Even though I kind of got to like a little burnout stage and need to take a break, but that's happened around Christmas. What do you expect?
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so your OCW title run. I remember you popping off and talking about how the CCW title like hasn't had any consistency, and like, okay, let me go take a look at the OC title. Let me go take a look at what's been happening since 2001. Let's dive in here. So Quartz is the last person to get to over 300 days, and that was back in 2021. Since then, you had H2O Parka, H2O in 2022 got to 230. Russ got to 120. Sheldon held it for 48 days. Aries 116. vacated 49, 43, and 214. So it's going the right way, right? Like there's a good chance that you're going to be able to hold it up. You've already gotten to a respectable number. Like you're going to probably get past H2. I don't know. I'd have to take a look at when the next pay-per-view and all that stuff takes place. But you're probably going to have the longest title reign since Quartz's record-breaking run back in 2021. So the OCW title has been rehabilitated and is back to where it needs to be. So all that being said, the idea of having more longer title runs, look at the people who are doing the long title runs. It's Al Parka. Because I'm going to think 200 is long title run. So it's Al Parka. It's B17. It's, let's see.
H2O. Antonio Everett.
Antonio. It's Deborah.
Suplex.
So take a look at all those people. Those are all people who don't panic. They don't panic when they're playing the game. Mm-hmm. Because this game will yo-yo. You can get your ass absolutely beat for a majority of the fucking match.
And still win.
And you can still win as long as you don't panic. Like, the list of people I just got done saying have gone over 200, they're cool as a cucumber. They don't fucking panic at all. They're in the middle of getting the shit kicked out of them, and they're thinking, how do I win this match yet? Like, they're not thinking about, oh, I'm going to lose and then get down on themselves. They're legit people who just think, how do I win this match now? What do I have to do to bring this back? Mm-hmm. That's the difference. It's people who don't panic. Like, at least I don't think they panic. I don't think you panic. I think you panicked in the past. I don't think you panic anymore.
It's all right. So it's a little bit weird for me. So I say this with the utmost respect when it comes to people in OCW, because it's like you said, this game is so volatile that it is just like, it's not like 2019 where you can sit there and be like, this is the consensus best player in OCW, because this game, like, I think a great example in my little tirade is Rex. We have seen Rex at certain times where his style either A, is very much so rewarded, or B, very much so punished, because he comes out like a tank, and he will, if you allow him, if you are not able to get his reads and get the reversals, he will batter you. He will beat the shit out of you, and he will get you red, orange, stun your ass with a sig, hit a finisher, 1, 2, 3, you're getting the fuck up out of here. But if you're able, because we've seen it, if you're able to weather that storm, get some of those crucial reversals, some of those crucial breakers, fend off the stun, and get the damage back, because especially now in this game, it wants you to have a back and forth match. It wants you to have fun, you know? So they're like, oh, we don't want shit balanced. We just want to be able to, where if you're getting the snot get kicked out of you, you can do it back and get it back. And it's like, if with me, I don't panic in my decision making, but I panic internally. So my last two defenses, I hated. I fucking hated having to face Sheldon and John, because both of them are absolutely two of the best. And, you know, Sheldon, while right now he's not been heating up as much as he was, I actually love that, because this new character arc he's going on, and this new, you know, this new attitude he has. So it's like, when I'm facing some of these people to where, like, genuinely I do not want to face them, because I'm like, holy fuck, dude, I'm gonna lose. Like, because almost every title defense I've gone into, I'm like, I'm gonna lose this. Like, I'm not gonna win. I'm gonna fuck up this title reign. Like, I'm sitting here yapping about stability and, you know, the foundation, and so much and on forth, that it's just like, my decision making, I don't panic. I mean, I think actually the most visible panic I've had recently was a beautiful moment between the B17 and El Parka match, where I ran out of the ring when you went for the Superman punch, because I was like, I'm not getting hit by that. Fuck this guy. And I just ran up out of there.
That was so the narrative around me is that I'm like yelling and I'm mad and I'm angry during my matches. And it's 100% true. Mm-hmm. But it's 100% true out of just pure fun. Like
Yes.
I'm playing the match and I'm being loud and I'm
Mhm.
just enjoying it. Um, so when you got out of the ring, like I told you, I yelled. It's like, this motherfucker. And so, what was that, honey? Nothing. Like it's in good fun. Like I'm just always boisterous. Like
Yes.
that's the word. I'm boisterous and I'm having fun with it. Like I'm rarely angry.
Right.
Like I get annoyed maybe, and I've been annoyed in matches and stuff,
Mhm.
but I've never let that like allow that to cascade into pure panic and like, oh shit, I'm gonna lose this match and then completely
Mhm.
fall apart. Like you've seen Bullock, like we've seen Bullock fall apart in matches and stuff.
Mhm.
We've maybe even seen Sheldon fall apart in matches and stuff. Like
Mhm.
when you get old enough with the game and stuff, like, and you get to the point where you're more comfortable with your character and who you are as like a person and presenting yourself as a person, like it's pew. It's like, what the fuck do I care if I lose? I'll just figure it out afterwards.
Right.
And that's where I've gotten to. And it took a long time to get to that. So anybody who panics, because that survey came out and there's a lot of people that panic. Um, I'm not gonna say don't take it seriously. Like Pew said, don't take it too seriously. Just be aware as you do this long enough, as you become more comfortable with yourself. It's just a life lesson. It's just a life habit. Like you're just gonna be more confident and you're gonna be more accepting of failure because failure is gonna happen. Like this is you know OCW. It's completely unpredictable, and this game is completely unpredictable too.
Mhm.
But the people who are holding it long enough, the titles and stuff, and have the most consistency are the people who have been there before. Like they know the experiences, and they're able to control those emotions.
Right.
That's what I think it comes down to. Okay, so that was answering the questions.
Yeah.
Are there any more questions that we can answer
Yes.
right now?
Yes, there is.
Okay.
So Rye wants us to do 80s predictions. If the show is coming out before the show, we can do those at the end of the episode. We can just run through those. And then Sheldon said, speaking of 80s shows, what do you think about gimmick shows or pay-per-views? Should they be more? Um, I so I think yes, in the sense of right now, I don't know about pay-per-views, a pay-per-view that I don't know if you were here for this, Adam, but one that I would love to see return and honestly become kind of like a mainstay B show is Chaos Theory. I think Chaos Theory was really, really cool. You know, having you have your feud partner or partners, however you're going about it, and then it is just up to the wheel. It is up to the madness of what happens when these decisions are made. I think that would be cool. And then I think kind of like how we have super turmoils and ultra riots. I would like to see us get a little bit more creative. Something that Jay did, I want to say a couple years ago, was Double Jeopardy Turmoil, and I don't remember what I think it was Chill Factor actually, and Chill Factor it was kind of like the prototype for Chaos Theory, where I'm pretty sure all of the stipulations were like chosen randomly or via a wheel, and then the same thing happened with that following Turmoil. I would love us to see like I would love us to take that sort of thing and use that for some of our more some bigger weekly shows. So then that way, let's just say hypothetically, like B17, right? B17 is feuding with someone, and let's say he's feeling extra creative this go around, and him and Jay are talking, and Jay's like, hey, we have this turmoil. I'm gonna just yoink this from AEW because it's on the top of my head. We have this turmoil on 34th Street where we're gonna make this like a super show, and me and Jake are gonna go. We're gonna commentate almost every match or all the matches. We're gonna do a few more things to where it's bigger than a normal turmoil. And B17 is like, oh, dude, perfect. Let's do me versus this person on turmoil on 34th Street, and then I can also build up into I can keep building my pay-per-view feud with my other partner, and then whatever happens, whether I have the title or not, pay-per-view match happens. But you have those added oomph to the shows where I think we kind of do it subtly with the beginning of the year shows and the season premiere shows and the season finales where, you know, it's like, all right, we're gonna load the deck and we're gonna do these super matches. I would love to see that sprinkled in more, especially for like some of our weekly shows.
Okay. The only way I'm against it, because ultimately it doesn't matter to me too much, but the only way I'm against it is if it became something like, and this is something I absolutely hated. Like there was a pay-per-view WWE Hell in a Cell.
Yes.
Like I hated that.
Yes.
I hated how it was forcefully putting a feud into Hell in a Cell instead of allowing Hell in a Cell to be something that was only brought out in rare examples. So I feel the same way about, you know, the Elimination Chamber concept, the Hell in a Cell, the future investment ladder match, like all those things. When those things are set in stone of these are going to happen at these pay-per-views, I'm usually pretty out of it. Like it might every now and then end up being really good, but it also might always end up being trying to fit something in the inopportune location. Like if someone's building a feud and they're building towards Hell in a Cell and they're getting to this point where it's a big blow off match, but you missed the pay-per-view for it because your guys just weren't there yet, then it feels very So I'm against that. I'm pretty sure I'm aware of Chaos Theory. I don't necessarily know if I was here for it, but I'm aware of how the wheel played a role in that. I'm not against it. I'm really not against that. Anything that generates excitement within OCW, and usually new things generate excitement. Like people were excited about the guest booker, and people tuned in to see the frickin' wheel spin around and land on certain people's names. Like anytime you can generate excitement, I'm all for it.
Right.
As long as it wasn't a set in stone. Okay, on this pay per view, we're always going to have Hell in a Cell or an Iron Man match or anything like that. Then yes, I'm 100% behind it.
And then to not make this be too long, I will cap the questions will end here, and then depending on where we're at for time, we might pick up afterward, or if not, we can leave the rest for the Me, You, and Rust episode. So Max goes, a discussion about John Carter and what makes a turn, heel or face, successful at large as opposed to unsuccessful. Can a bad feud / loss do more damage than no feud? What makes certain divisions top heavy or hollow, historically tag and women's? How do you know when it is time for a multi-man feud? Example, triple threat. So I'm going to leave the John Carter one, that kind of like about him / the blanket type. I'm going to leave that to you, Adam. But what I'm going to talk about, and then we can maybe, you know, bounce on the last two together, is can a bad feud / loss do more damage than no feud? I personally would say no to this. Using myself as an example, I feuded with Colin Locke at, I want to say either anniversary 16 or 17. We were still on 2K19. Now, mind you, I am saying this specifically in the sense of a bad loss. Colin beat the shit out of me. This man basically got as close to a green bar in 2K19 sense, I would say. Like maybe he had some yellow limbs, if that, but he really beat the shit out of El Parca. I would say no, that loss did not do more damage than no feud would, because I'm on the show. Me and Colin are building toward a match. Colin got the momentum of just dominating El Parca at the anniversary show. And then after anniversary, I then went on to, you know, I used that loss as fuel to go and slaughter Chris Green when he and I had our mini ambition feud on Devil's Night, which then led into me feuding with Harvey and becoming winning the first world championship at Certified Greatness. I would also say a bad feud, that is very subjective. I don't really know what a bad feud is, because in my eyes, a bad feud is pretty much like no feud. Like if I just see you have one segment with somebody and then you guys do nothing, literally including writing, but you still have a pay-per-view feud, I will consider that a bad feud. But if you're still writing, trying to make video content, like I'm not even talking about your skill level as a content creator, but just making video content, there's nuggets that you can take from those feuds and you can apply them, or you should apply them for the continuity of your character. So no, I think a bad feud / loss does not do more damage than no feud. No feud at completely clears that.
Okay. Am I touching on that one, or am I just taking the John thing?
Take the John thing and then touch on that one when you're done with the John.
Okay, so ask that question again so I can make sure I understand the full context of it.
So he mainly says he's using John Carter as your example, but a discussion about John Carter and what makes a turn, whether that's heel or face, successful at large as opposed to unsuccessful.
Okay. First thing, and I think people aren't going to like this because it's not an answer that you want to be part of it. Your Discord interactions, they have to be appropriate.
Totally agree.
You have how do you phrase this? It was brought up recently by Owen, I think,
The
about
disconnect between handler and character.
yes, that.
Yes,
Okay, so
that was
I
on.
used to I used to feel that way. Like I used to feel like people were judging me, the handler, and then associating that with the character. And by all means, it may or may not be true to certain people. It wasn't true to the people I was talking to. That was the mistake that I made, and that's a different question. But I think people probably realize who I'm talking about here. But when you're interacting with people in Discord, um, they're going. It's a more frequent interaction.
Mm-hmm.
Like, regardless of how you feel about the fact that you are portraying your character 24/7 in OCW, you are essentially portraying your character 24/7 in OCW. There are certain people that you can talk to because they won't associate you and the character together.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if people have been around for a long enough period of time, they're not going to. They're going to be able to recognize, oh, this is John being John right now. But you have to hold yourself to a certain standard in the Discord. You have to be a nicer person in Discord. You have to present yourself as a face in Discord. And I imagine people aren't going to be overly thrilled with that answer, but that's just my opinion. Um, I portray myself very differently than who I actually am. Like, um, I portray myself as kind of this goofball, this idiot, and stuff like that. It's very different than how I actually am. Like, I try to be funny, I try to lighten the mood and stuff. I try to poke fun at myself, right? Because I want people to feel sympathetic towards myself, towards the character B17. Like that's what I want. So like when Bash is talking shit about me, I'm just taking it.
Right.
Like I'm just gonna take it. It's just gonna be something that happens. When Pew or Jay or somebody else talks about me and they're yelling at me, they know I'm not taking it personal, and I'll post that gif of that woman that's running down the hallway and crying because I'm accepting that I am portraying a face within OCW. Like me getting into arguments on the server is not gonna do me any favors. It's not going to do me any favors as a person. It's not going to do me any favors as a handler. It's not going to do me the character any favors whatsoever. So that's one thing. John doesn't do that. Like John is a dope most of the time. Everywhere that he goes in Discord, like he is abrasive in DM chat. He can be very abrasive in DM chat. He can be abrasive in the OCW show discussion where you're actually supposed to like I don't know. Is that still there? Is that like this is the in character thread? Like, do they still have that here? Because there used to be one thread where you're like supposed to. This is your in character. You're not supposed to talk about X, Y, and Z in this one. And then there's general pop, and that usually doesn't happen. Like most of us just navigate to show discussion, and it just becomes a discussion.
Yeah.
So John is John the entire way through, and like one of the things he needs to do is he needs to be better at recognizing. Okay, I can't be a dick all the time. Like I have to present myself differently. Mm-hmm. So is that a good answer? No, I imagine there's going to be people that disagree with that. Another thing John can do is John cannot annoy people. Now, I'm not saying that from like a talking standpoint, but he has to do things that people are going to visually enjoy watching and they're going to want to go back and actually see again. Him cutting a promo as he's coming out for his match annoyed people. Him with his voice that people just hated so much annoyed people. Like he was naturally annoying people in his character and refusing to change things, and he wasn't taking any feedback on that, and he almost seems to embrace that. Like I am going to be annoying. Mm-hmm. And if you want to be a face, you can't be overly annoying. Like you can annoy some people. Like obviously you can annoy some people. I annoy some people, but you cannot be annoying and abrasive in most of your interactions. So that's his That is one of the elements. Is there other elements? Absolutely. There's so many other elements that you have to consider. And even the thing that I just got done saying about how you present yourself in Discord is not 100% accurate. Like
Mm,
there are people like who Quartz can be clear cut and dry, and he can joke around and stuff, and you're aware that he's joking around with you. But there's other people in OCW that haven't quite figured out when people are joking with them. And that's when the dangerous things start to happen. Because then you don't know they're joking with you. You start talking about that person. You start thinking negatively about that person. And it becomes so damn hard for you to disassociate them, the person, and the character. So that's yeah, I know that was a hell of a rant. I don't know if you agree with that. You don't need to agree with that. You don't even need to respond to that. What was the thing I was supposed to touch on? Because I kind of got caught up in that for a second.
no, I appreciate your long-winded response. I'm not gonna agree nor disagree, but I think anyone who knows me will know my stance on that. Can a bad feud / loss do more damage than no feud?
No, absolutely not. No, because you can have a great feud and you can have a visually appalling match, and you still had a match. You
Yes.
still were there. You were still working. And Tibby is the prime example I'm going to use here. He appreciates you just putting in the effort. Jay might get annoyed with the choices you make, but he's going to appreciate the work that you're putting in. If you're putting in the work, people are going to appreciate that you're giving that effort, and therefore you are going to be more successful than if you do nothing whatsoever because you're waiting for that good response. Like if you're waiting for someone to pat you on the back and say good job, you're not going to get it. It's going to be very rare that you actually get that in the way that you want it to. More than likely, it's the loud, boisterous people like you that are going to say something that might be a critique, but people are going to take it the wrong way and they didn't get that feedback, and then they're going to feel like, oh, I failed. No, you didn't fail. You got him to talk about you. Like, Pew is the prime example. If Pew talks about your content, you've done something right. If Jamie talks about your content, you've done something right. If they're talking about your content, it's better than them not talking about your content. Now, if they're giving you feedback and saying, "Look, you did something wrong here," you probably shouldn't do that again. But I in no world can see how putting in 3 months of work, getting a pay-per-view match, and then losing the match can hurt you versus in comparison to you didn't do anything leading to the match. You snuck in on a technicality. You got a random like super turmoil show. You had that one match and then you disappear. That hurts more. Like it doesn't matter if you win. That hurts more because you didn't provide consistent content. You didn't help to structure and create the show. You just weren't there enough. And there are plenty of people who do that. I just got my ass kicked by Bash in DNS. Like I was the first person eliminated. It's not going to hurt me. It's not going to hurt me because I'm not going to let it hurt me. I'm not going to take a loss and then completely disappear. That is the only time it hurts you. When you have something that stops you from producing and continuing to produce, then that's when you actually fail. When you stop and you give up, then you fail. Okay, next question.
Totally agree. What makes certain divisions top heavy or hollow? Historically, tag and women's.
Well, the women's division is not hollow anymore. It's not even top heavy anymore. It is it's perfectly balanced in my opinion in comparison to the rest. And perfectly is not the right word, but it's balanced. Like there's no reason to think that it's top heavy or anything else. There are plenty of potential contenders for the belt and they're going to show up and they're going to be seen. So I'm not even like why was it once hollow? I mean that's pretty easy. There's not many female in the same way. It wasn't seen as an avenue of success. Like it was seen as alt territory. It's not seen as alt territory anymore. And it's not seen as alt territory anymore because of people like Ashley Moore and Empress and I would say La Mujer being more active within it and then Deborah especially. Like those people being active in it, especially Valkyrie as well. Those people being active and having their mains per se within it or having prominent characters that are not considered alt in any way, shape, or form, that is how it became what it's become. And then what was the other title division you said? Tag one?
The tag, which I will comment on.
You go for that one.
Yeah, I think with the tag division for a long part, honestly, not even a long part, probably basically like 80% of the time that I've been in OCW, we had the three, the three Mount Rushmore tag teams of the modern era. You had CQC, Sanctum, and Lucha Country. All of them were so dominant that nobody could beat them. Nobody. There was no one beating them. And then I would have to say, when the tag division genuinely started getting more interesting in the prospect of the titles changing hands, new teams being in the division that are not being handled by me, Jamie, Jake, Rust. When you're starting to have those people not be there, you get the Max Storage, you get the Future Idiots, you get the Pivot, you get Mass Effect, you get shit, man. Right now, Temple of Omen, Cold Front, Clickbait. Sorry, my bad. So I think now that the tag titles are kind of in a position, and just the tag department is in this area where there really isn't any number one standout top dog, because even with Mass Effect, Grit and Glory beat them before, the Pivot beat them before. So, it's like the top dog isn't just always the top dog, because now we're starting to get teams that are, in a sense, on equal footing to where at any time they can win that match, or they can lose, or they can do this, or they can do that. Whereas before, it was very much like, oh, okay, this team's going to get another defense, and then we're going to move on and call it a day. So the tag division, I think with the tag division, the only thing I would personally critique on it, and if this ruffles people's feathers, fuck you, I don't care. I would like to see more tag team feuds between people that were not the tag champs and the challengers. I think Perfect Storm was a tremendous tag team for that very reason. They were working with everybody. Like, they were working with Grit and Glory. They were working with Future Idiots. They were dipping their hands in with Mass Effect here and there. They were, these guys were constantly battling the tag division and were, these standouts that should very much so be thanked. I'm hoping we see more of that with the, new year coming in, but that would be my only slight nag, is I just want to see more tag teams, actual tag teams working with one another.
Let me jump in real quick here, because this division, I don't actually have much to say. This division lends itself to people engaging in hyperbole so easily. It is either the best it's ever been, or it's dog shit.
Yes.
That's how people react to it, and that's not a fair assessment, because it takes people time to connect. Like, getting together, forming a tag team, it can be a bit of a process, and it takes you time to discover what your tag team actually is. And so there's always people that are talking and throwing ideas back and forth, and there are tag teams that are present. They just haven't figured out how they want to present themselves. Temple of Omen and becoming what it's going to become one day, like Click Bay, and what we are going to be is completely, like, we don't know. Like, it's developing. So I don't like it when people engage in the hyperbole of it's the best it's ever been or it's the worst it's ever been. It's not. It's the division. It's existing. It probably, as you said, needs more feuds, but it's in a perfectly fine location. I just think people are so quick to jump to conclusions with the tag division. The moment that a established tag team disappears, being Grit and Glory, oh my God, what's going to happen here? The Mass Effect, oh my God, what's going to happen here? Just, it's fine. Like, it's perfectly fine. This is what the tag division used to be, absolutely nothing. And now it's something. And it's had prominent members in it. It's fine. Okay.
Something just a very short one before we get to the multi-man question, and then we're going to cap the questions there. But it's something that John actually asked that kind of tied into the divisions thing. He said, is there a way to stop tag teams breaking up after they lose the titles, or is it something we should just expect to happen? I personally think, just off of a very quick one, I think it's a 50-50 shot I think a lot of people, especially in OCW, shove people who are in tag teams in a box. They do not want to see a tag team pursue other avenues outside of the tag team championships. I think a big tag team that really proved against that norm was the Lobby. Even though the Lobby, right before Rust got injured, Rust was specifically calling for the tag team championships, and him and Pew were kind of teasing, being the co-international champions while also being the tag team champs. I think it's genuinely just up to the people in that team to not take the noise at times that OCW loves to put out there, and just make that decision on your own. Like we've already seen, like Jay was a big one. I was a big one where with Mass Effect, I absolutely want Mass Effect to break up. I want Mass Effect to get that Ryvon versus Devin feud, break up, go your separate ways and call it a day. But then, there are some tag teams, like one that I don't ever want to see break up, just because, Adam, to how you said, they organically built themselves. They organically built themselves up, is the Pivot. I don't want to see the Pivot break up. I want to see the Pivot go through hell and back and ups and downs, and I want them to stay true to one another. So, in short, it's very much so up to the team themselves, because at the end of the day, that's all that matter. If one of the guys wants to keep going but the other doesn't, well, then the team's going to break up. If they both want to keep going, they can go as singles guys but together, or they can go back for the tag titles.
All right, cap us there and let's get going.
We're going to the normal one, in the normal.
Well, unless you have a very prominent question that you want to get answered yet, because I know there are plenty. Okay.
No, there's so many questions. Thank you to everybody who did ask the questions. I promise I will not forget the rest of them, and we will do it for the next one. We have Russ. So we're going to jump in to an anniversary recap / rewind edition. And basically, this is going to be the main focus point on the show. I have some other things that if it doesn't get to them, me and Adam, when we have another just me and him episode, we can touch on those. So first and foremost, the 20th anniversary show is done and over with. Adam, what was the match that to you delivered the most?
When you say delivered the most, are you talking like the match itself delivered, like it was my favorite match, or are you saying like the storyline elements that are all part of it just kind of came together and I got a satisfying conclusion? Like
satisfying conclusion, the story elements, even both. If you want to do the match that you're like, all right, this was your favorite match, and then that side, whichever you want to go, just what was the one that delivered the most to you?
The one I enjoyed watching the most is the one that we built up the most in the Discord, and maybe that's not fair, but the main event of you and John, like how much we had built up to that. I'm not saying that was my favorite match. It actually wasn't my favorite match. My favorite match was Junko versus Dragana. I don't know why. Like I don't know why that one was my favorite match. Like, but it was just such a solid match. I really enjoyed it. But the match that had the most satisfying conclusion for me came down to the main event, because we had spent so much time talking about, oh my God, what's going to happen if John Carter wins? And ultimately, if John Carter won, nothing bad's going to happen. It's just that we allowed ourselves to get so caught up in the moment in the chat and stuff. And it was fun for me watching people respond to it. Mm-hmm. So that match and its conclusion where, John fell short and stuff, like that was a very satisfying conclusion for me. Like I wanted El Parca to win, but I was also really like, oh my God, if John wins, this is gonna change everything. And change is exciting, even if change isn't always good. It's exciting to watch, and it's exciting to think about happening. So that was the satisfying conclusion one. But Dragana versus Junko was my favorite match. Okay. What about you?
My favorite match. Ooh, man, that's a tough one. I would have to say probably the one that I enjoyed watching the most would have to be, oh man, probably Scotty versus Marissa. That was the one where I was very heavily invested in, just the things that Scotty and Marissa touched on, while building this feud, and kind of seeing hints and cracks toward maybe Marissa trying to humanize herself, maybe potentially down the road, very, very down the road. I'm sure there's people going to be vehemently disagree with me, but maybe even seeing Marissa change, changing of the leaf. Maybe she tries to be a better person, tries to become, I don't want to say a baby face, but just tries to become a better person. That was definitely the one that clicked everything for me. But then I also very much so enjoyed watching Mugen versus Nate, strictly because I want to see the Nate Ortiz John Cena US title run continue. But I would have to say, Anniversary 20 definitely in the conversation for event of the year, if I'm being honest with you. Like, if people sat me down and were like, hey, rewatch Anniversary 20, rewatch Resolution, that'd be a very tough one. The second one in this conversation was, what was the match that you predicted most accurately?
The one I predicted the most accurately. Trying to think back to that here, because I didn't answer that question. Like, I left it blank. Like, which match did I predict the most accurately? I predicted that El Parker was gonna win. Like, right. I that was my expectation. I expected that Dragana was gonna win. Like, those things were right. The one that I got the most right is, I predicted that Junko was going to be competitive with Dragana, and I felt that Junko was competitive with Dragana because I had played Junko recently, and I've obviously played Dragana in the past as well. Like, I predicted it was going to be a closer match than some people were going to give it credit for. Like, and it was a closer match than people gave it credit for. It wasn't a complete ass whooping. It was fun, back and forth, energetic. So I was right about that. I was happy to be right about that because obviously it turned out being my favorite match. So that was the one I'm most right on. Yeah, I really don't know how else to answer that because I didn't really spend too much time thinking about what was going to happen in the matches because I really am just in fan mode. Like, I put it on. I'm not in the chat. Like, I don't do the VPs anymore. I just watch the show, just to enjoy, because the VP creates these, like, it can create an atmosphere of energy, and people can be really upbeat, and it can be fun, and it also can be very distracting to watch. And I personally find it very distracting to watch. And I had heard people say, yeah, we could have done a better job not talking over people's packages and talking over matches and stuff. And that's what I like to avoid. I just want to watch as a fan. So, what were you the most right on?
Probably Rex Pugh. I pretty much said that I had assumed that Rex was just going to go in and absolutely fucking slaughter Pugh, which is exactly what happened. I think, just kind of going back to one of the questions, prime example right there. That loss does not hurt Pugh whatsoever. Like, knowing Pugh, he's going to sit there and he's going to come back, whether he's in a hospital bed or his first segment, that he's okay. And he's like, yeah, look at me. I fucking put Rex out of this bitch. What are y'all going to say? Oh, yeah. It's his but a scratch. I was just in the hospital for a little bit. He's gone. So, Rex versus Pugh. But the question that, for at least this part of the anniversary conversation that I was most excited to hear you talk about was, who is the character you're most intrigued about moving forward after the 20-year anniversary?
It's got to be Bash. Like, that match, it happened. It's not going to hurt anybody. It shouldn't hurt anybody. But it can really help them. Like, it really helps Bash. He was very excited to get a win. He was very excited to get the pin against B17. Like, he was happy about it. And I felt happy for him. And there's no reason that excitement and the fact that DNS stays together can't become something more. And I have theories about what it could become and what I think it should become, but I'm not really a fantasy booker, so I'll just throw out the thing I want per se. I'm not gonna get into details about it because then it gets too complex, and I'm not here for that. Right. this seems like a great opportunity for the DNS Civil War
Yes.
because it
Yes.
felt like I didn't know what Jimmy was gonna do to justify certain members not being available. Like obviously, I think everybody understands why it didn't happen because of systems and who has what system and stuff, et cetera, et cetera. Um,
Really peeling the curtain back there, bud. I'm gonna scold you on that when it's my turn, but keep going.
so I don't think you need to scold me or anything, but
You like it.
this is such a great opportunity to have shitty ass Bullet come out. Why did you leave me out? I should be involved. Are you trying to replace me? Are you trying to kick me out? Are you jealous of me? Like just going on a rant. That's what I should see. So that's where I'm gonna leave it. I think it's a great opportunity to pick up with a DNS Civil War. So go ahead, scold me, and then move on.
No, I'm not gonna scold you. Genuinely, I completely agree. And DNS Civil War. So originally, and I, as everyone knows, and if you haven't known, I stand on what I say, no matter whether it's I miss crazy or I hit right on the target. Before this match happened, I genuinely was tired of DNS. I think Jimmy, as a content creator and as the handler behind Bash, is awesome. I was so ready for him to I wanted DNS done. I wanted DNS to die because it's exhausting. It was very tiring. I feel like they kind of had some blunders in decision making and storytelling timings that I was just like, all right, dude, this is fucking enough with me. I can't stand it. But then, in a way, this shutout, this DNS just blowout of Team OCW, especially Bash pinning B17 in a sense where I kind of wish. Now, once again, I do not blame Jay and Jake for how they commentated this match because there was no good possible way you were going to commentate this match whatsoever. I do wish there was a little bit more emphasis on the elimination of B17, especially first. B17 was the leader of Team OCW, and he was eliminated first. This man's team crumbled without him. Absolutely crumbled. And I want that to be not only a talking point for B17 and perhaps even Team OCW members, but also DNS. I want Bash to be like, look at what I did. I showed you what I can do. But then, exactly like you said, I don't know how they get there or what they do, but if I do not get a DNS Civil War after this, as a fan, I will be very disappointed. Very, very, very disappointed because I think like genuinely you could take this fucking DNS Civil War all the way to Lucian. Whenever that is, this bitch can ride to Lucian. All of these guys should get on Lucian if they play their cards the right way and they do this feud the way that it deserves. Because there are so many angles that you can run with this that just a DNS Civil War is so blatant on what they should do next. But my the character that I'm most intrigued about moving forward from the 20-year anniversary, I actually have I have two of them. So the first person, which is gonna be ironic, is B17 because I think outside of the um tag team loss where you as the handler got absolutely fed up. I want to see how B17 the character reacts to the fact that this man was unstoppable. Like let us call it face facts. B17 beat El Parka. He has been beating everybody that he is stepping in the ring with, and he especially kicked the fucking shit out of Bash at Summerside. So Bash just did that same thing to him. Bash just ripped away, like he ripped away. Mugen died for his sins. He ripped away. He decimated Team OCW. Like I am enthralled with what B17 is going to do after Anniversary following this defeat. And then somebody else that I'm very much so interested in is to see where Marissa goes from here. Because while Marissa won I'm really, really hoping that the small details that Scotty and Marissa gave us in the segments where, you know, we're getting hints and we were getting these, you know, peaks of Marissa's humanity. I really hope Marissa does keep playing to that. I really do. I think no matter how bad you are outside of very, very few things, you can redeem yourself. And while Marissa has done very many shitty things, hey man, if she goes on this babyface odyssey of trying to be a better person naturally, I would love that. But, you know, once again, it's up to her on how she does it. So Marissa and B17, definitely the two that I'm very much so looking forward to seeing.
Okay. Okay. So we get to the part that I was the most excited about. I think that's probably why you put it in there. You said like,
Absolutely.
"Hey, go back, Adam. Shout outs, flowers, past anniversary."
Mm-hmm.
And that sent me down a huge rabbit hole, which was a terrible time to do it because I'm trying to get ready for Christmas shit. And so I got my phone. I'm like scrolling back through shit. And I'm like, okay, I'm writing shit down and whatnot. So here's what I did to simplify it, and I'll explain why I picked it in a second. I went back and I rewatched the 16-year anniversary because I was scrolling through everything. Like, this is too much to go through. So I just decided to go back and rewatch 16-year anniversary. And I chose to go back to that one specifically because you keep mentioning B17 versus Shepard, and like I enjoyed it. It was legitimately something I very much enjoyed. But your level to it, you look at it very much more highly than I do. So I'm like, I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna rewatch this here to see and then kind of read up and see how it was, and I'll be interested to see why you're so high on it. But that's the reason why I ended up going back to it, and then I took some notes on some things. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go through the 16-year anniversary, and what I was looking for was like some symmetry. Mm-hmm. What were some things that were happening back then that were still happening today? And like, how did some characters develop? And I found some intriguing things, or at least they're intriguing to me. So it was funny. John Carter was in the rookie battle royal. Mm-hmm. He was with Franklin Wesley, Colin, Tyler Walker, Tay Breezy, and Chris Green. So he was in that, and listening to commentary talk about John Carter was hilarious. Not much has changed in how they view him. They're still talking about him as a dummy. They're still talking about all the silly mistakes he makes. And it's funny because John is the last one standing out of that rookie battle royal. Like, everybody else is gone. And John won that rookie battle royal. So it was so fun to see. It's like, okay, so this is where this person was 4 years ago. And this is where they've gotten to. And their character has developed, but there's still so many core characteristics that you could see from that 16-year anniversary translating to who he is today. And I really like that. I'm like, okay, there's a level of consistency here that maybe hasn't been as appreciated as much. And maybe sometimes we overlook. But, you know, John Carter, last one standing, one that very, very reminiscent character-wise of who he is today is who he was originally. So that was something that was fun for me. Also on the show, Jay was verbally berating Marissa for not wearing enough clothes. And I remember, and then it like all snapped back. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this conversation. I remember there being a lot of uproar about Marissa. And then I went back and I actually watched one of her videos, and I downvoted the video. And I'm like, oh yeah, I was one of those people. I was one of those people who did not like the presentation. I thought very little of it. Like, oh yeah, I've changed my perspective. Yeah, there's still things that I feel like a little too much. But I found that funny because I'm like, oh, I used to really dislike this. And now Marissa is a segment that I will watch and I enjoy watching. So she got berated for not wearing enough clothes. She put on some clothes later in the show, and then she ended up on a Hustler. That was her Hustler shoot. And I'm watching this. I'm like, oh my God, this. Marissa's gotten so much better at video work. There's a huge growth spurt here. Like, good then, really good now. And I download that video. That's the content of it. But the level of consistency and the ability to appropriately change to maybe not push the bounds as much anymore, but still push them enough to still be unique as to who you are and presenting who you are and still being that risque character. That level of consistency I really did appreciate as well. Even though back then maybe I felt it pushed too much. Make sense?
And she still does the same thing. She
Yeah.
still wears the same amount of clothes, which is hilarious. I love that's what I love about Riot. That dude just he does not care. You can complain about something, but he's still gonna do what he thinks is best. I love that. Keep going.
Yes. Okay. So the next thing that stood out to me was Jay went in hard on Danny Watts in his match against Parka. And your guys' match was terrible. Like it started off really good, but then it just collapsed. Like so Danny Watts started to go to the top rope, and he missed so many times, and the match just fell apart. And there's failures everywhere. You guys were botching moves and missing moves and stuff, and you could see that at some point in the match, it stopped being a wrestling match, and it started becoming a video game of who's going to win.
Yes.
And I'm watching that, and Jay is just going in on Danny Watts, and I'm like, oh, okay, I now remember Danny Watts a little bit more because for me, in my mind, Danny Watts, he was around. He was good. He was fine. And then he disappeared. Maybe my perspective is false because of how forgiving I am. Like, I'm very much, okay, yeah, this happened. Move on. But that was a rough match. Like, I paused the match on a couple of occasions like, ugh, this is not fun. I wrote an RP where I stole Shepard's notebook. Like, all right, so this gets into this, and now I'm going to bring you in a second here. So I wrote an RP where I stole Shepard's notebook, and I find it funny because just this year, Jamie had commented and said, Adam is a generational talent who just wants to be a mid-card comedy face. I'm like, yeah, that's accurate. That's exactly what I want to be. I like being goofy. Like, I enjoy the character being goofy. I enjoy writing goofy things. And I will say, this current title run has been a lot less goofy than my first long one. But anyways, I wrote an RP where I stole Shepard's notebook, and he had filled it with inspirational quotes and stuff because Shepard had been a face before, like, turning heel and forming with KD, and he was, like, the rookie whisperer. He was giving them uplifting advice and stuff and always patting them on the back, but KD made him mean. So I took the notebook, and I hoisted it into the air with a crane, which, ridiculous. T.Y. Sparks was actually the one who was controlling the crane. So a wooden pallet, puts a single notebook on it, raises it up, and for some odd reason, I have the rookie dressing room. There's roof access to the rookie dressing room, so I told T.Y. to lower the inspirational notebook into the rookie dressing room. And Mantis, well, it wasn't Mantis directly, but it was somebody wearing green, reaches up and grabs the notebook, and then you hear them, they don't understand me, and they tear the notebook out, and they throw it into pieces, and it comes flying down onto Shepard, and then Shepard calls me a sissy. And, like, this proves it. I've been an idiot for the longest fucking time. Write what you know. I know how to be an idiot. So, definitely, like, not much has changed too much. I've obviously been a little bit more serious on this title run, but I've always been a big goofy with the bingo character. So, before I continue, you have to tell me, because this is what brought me back. Like, you liked that match and that feud so much, and you told me it was going to surprise me why you did. I don't rate it as highly as you do. There are other feuds that I certainly look back on and say I liked it more than this one, so you got to tell me why.
So, it's funny because I was going to talk to you about it the one day in a VC, but I was like, nah, like I need to tell him, like, when we're on a podcast. So, this was around the time where I would say, like, probably my peak form of indulging in OCW content, where, like, when a show was going on, I'm watching it, I'm reading it. Whereas nowadays, if a show is going on, depending on what I'm working or what I'm doing, I won't watch it / read it day of. I might read it, a couple days after, or watch it a couple days after. But the thing with this feud was, this was the first, this is, like, mind you, like, I'm not really able to call back to many feuds where I get this feeling, but this was one of those feuds where the writing really, I saw everything because, mind you, this was the time where, video content wasn't as heavy as it normally is now. Writing was very much thicker on the shows, and your guys' writing, like I remember the one segment, and this is probably why I surprised you, but the one segment where Shepard just beat the shit out of B17 backstage. I think it was like in the parking lot or the locker room area, somewhere like that. And like we really saw this change in Shepard because he's like, he is showing I am not this nice guy anymore. Like I am a threat to you. I am going to take your championship. I'm going to batter you. And he really beat the shit out of B17. And I was like, wow, like that the writing in this feud was some of my absolute favorite writing because it took Shep, who, for those who know the handler behind him, he's a very calm guy. Like he's revered. He's, one of these guys that is very much so very cool, calm, collected. He mainly runs ladies for his alts. That's what Shep was. Shep is, this good guy. I'll shake your hand. Like I remember El Parka and Shep, they had a champ versus champ match. I'm pretty sure we did a handshake after it. It was very good vibes. But then that switch is just flipped where like it's definitely one of my favorite heel turns, and like really solidifying that this guy is a heel, and like really like genuinely made me like, wow, dude, like I need B17 to win. Like I can't let like this guy can't become CCW champion. This can't be the guy that, unseats this guy who's, goofy and just, flamboyant and, pointing his fingers around and just being like, yippee, like really like it was very pro wrestling. And I think it was very pro wrestling in a very OCW way. There wasn't very many videos, and it was fucking fantastic writing that just, and very much so, like you gave me, it seemed like you opened a door into the older times of OCW where it was just writing mainly. And I was like, man, if videos went away, but we had people writing feuds like this, I would have no issue with it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. There was that was also the time when I started doing more video work, but they weren't anything special. That's when I did that singing in the shower one.
Yes, when you were singing it, Katie took your clothing.
Yeah, and so that's when I started doing video as well. But yes, you're right. It was very much a written. And I don't think the match was particularly great. But I think that also it stands out as the moment where I think my title run became solidified. Like I had won in the Elimination Chamber, and then my title run began, and that was about halfway through the title run. But that's when it became, okay, Adam's actually on a run here. Mm-hmm. Adam is actually working feuds here. Like Adam is legitimately planting character seeds as who he is and who he's trying to be. So in that sense, you're right. There was a lot of change, and it's when I became more comfortable allowing my character to look weak. Like I stopped thinking so much about protecting my character's image, and I started thinking more about allowing the character to be vulnerable. And KD and Shepard did beat the shit out of me. Mm-hmm. They did in these promos and stuff. And I've carried that lesson. Like when I look back to that, I remember the turn, it's okay to look weak. As a matter of fact, if you want to be a face, which I want to be, you have to look weak more often. You have to be willing to look weak. You have to be willing to let your character look weak. So, good to hear. I'm happy to hear that. Let me finish this out here because I just want to get through a few other things about with the anniversary here. So, La Mujer defeated Ashley Moore to take the women's title. I think that was the cash-in, right? Was that a cash-in? Or not? I forgot to write that down if it was a cash-in or not. Somebody will have to remind me of that. But La Mujer had if there's one thing I don't like about La Mujer, it's the finisher. The finisher is a
roll-up. Yeah.
It's and It's okay if the roll up actually takes place, but what happened is La Mujer hit the finisher on Ashley Moore, but didn't go for the pin because they were so close to the ropes. So the
Mhm.
finisher happens, the move is released, and then dragged to the middle and pin.
Yeah.
And I think I've always looked at that finisher now as like, ugh, I don't really like that finisher too much. It can look good in the right situation, but okay. Uh, so now this is funny. This is funny to me. Marissa, this last anniversary was getting called out for her insecurities. Like you're an insecure person. You're just covering up. You're good at covering up, but you're an insecure person. And those ideas were explored by Marissa, potentially as an evil person, potentially as actually happening. Don't know. But this happened back in 20. This happened back in the 16-year anniversary as well, except it was Tara. Tara had a promo on the show that was very reminiscent of Scotty's promo, suggesting that that Marissa has significant insecurities that she is hiding and refuses to acknowledge, and are going to come out one day and cost her. And all I can think is, oh, I wonder, it, is this intentional? Is this been is this, are we getting to the end of the story? Like, is it getting called out now and enough bad things have happened that change is actually taking place before it was calling out, planting the seeds, and the character's been on this arc ever since, and now we're getting to the anniversary 4 years later, and there's actually just the symmetry of it all coming back, like the close of the book, the start of the next book here. I don't know, but I was like, maybe there's something to this. So you would know better than I have if there actually is, because I was gone for 2 years, so I don't actually know if there was ever any sense of taking responsibility from that character, or ever a sense of, yeah, I do have these insecurities, I'm facing these and facing the challenges. Has that ever happened? Or has it always been a constant build, and now we're getting to the point where, okay, maybe I do need to change?
She's always been disgusted by her own humanity, so like there's never really been a moment in time where she has noticed these things and been like, what, maybe it's time. And I think that's a great thing, because she's always doubled down on, she's like, ugh, I'm not a good person, like I do what I need to do to succeed. And which is why I'm like, yo, please let me see this long simmering build to her trying to be a good person.
Okay. Okay. It to me, it just stood out as one of those interesting moments, those fun little things where, oh, John Carter is essentially the same person. He's evolved a little bit, but he's essentially the same person. The reactions to him, they have changed a little bit, but they're pretty similar to what they were.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that was just one of those things of symmetry that I really love in wrestling. Um, I'm actually gonna jump now, because
Okay.
the next question you had asked is like, what was the top, like,
Yeah, we already
overarching
touched
you?
that.
What's the top thing?
Mm.
To me, when I think back to anniversary, the thing that jumps out the most to me is Russ Cole versus Aleister Ross at OCW 17. Why? I don't know, but when you asked that question, I immediately jumped to that one before I went back to OCW 16, Annie. Um, I think a big reason is because it was the focus of my little documentary that I had on Rex, and it was the moment where I thought Rex was going to turn the corner and finally find peace as a character. He's failed. He's been broken. He's been beaten. He's been down. He's going to try and build himself back up again. He does it. I thought it was going to turn the corner and we were going to see that Rex was going to develop into somebody better.
Mm-hmm.
Because fundamentally, Rex is a bad person. Like, he turns to alcoholism. He's not particularly good to the people around him. He struggles to form connections. He feels trapped with what he's going to do. I thought all the way back in OCW 17 that was going to be the change, and it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't. So that's why that stands out to me so much, probably. I'm not certain if it is. The match was okay. It was nothing particularly great. And then the follow-up feud and stuff wasn't good for a number of reasons, but I don't want to get away from that. I just really thought that this was the changing of Rex as a person and as a character, and it really wasn't. It was actually a reinforcement in the end.
Mhm.
It actually ended up reinforcing who he is overall, the scumbag that we all love. But if we're being honest with ourselves, us loving him is not a good thing for him. Like the fans cheering for him, not a good thing. Because it just allows him to continue being who he is, and he is a fundamentally unhappy person.
Fair.
Okay. Shit, I've talked a lot. Go on, please.
Oh man, I mean my favorite. I already touched on it. You know, probably right now for my most favorite would definitely be the B17 and Shepherd feud for the anniversary. But something that I want to touch on very quickly is I really liked the Alistair Ross run of Rex. I loved when he was a part of DDE and when he kind of was just like, yeah, fuck it, like I am this bad guy. I am this villain you want me to be, and I'm gonna make mad money while doing it. And I think his North American title run should have been better, but that is to no fault of him. Um, I would have loved to see the Alistair Ross run and his North American Championship run be longer. Um, one thing, so I want to touch on this, and then for once, I'm actually going to be the one who runs off and has to go. Um, but we have a little bit more time, and then we can pick up when we're with Rust because he'll be another beautiful person to talk about this. But so, Adam, the future investment is making a return where it'll be held at certified greatness. The case is no longer anytime, anywhere, but a guaranteed title match at Summerside. What was your reaction to that?
Um, Remember how earlier I said I dislike things when they're set in stone and they have to happen at this event?
Yes.
As long as this, I don't know. I'm very split. Like I 100% like the idea of embracing change and allowing people to feel excited about it. And if people are excited about it, then it doesn't really matter what I think or how I feel about it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I didn't dislike the FI as it was, but freshening up things always comes with heightened excitement. And so, like, the Royal Rumble, the WWE Royal Rumble has gone through changes. The title shot was starting to give out in '93. At some point, I'm pretty sure there was a guarantee if you won the Royal Rumble, you were main eventing WrestleMania. Right? Is that a thing, or am I misremembering that?
That was a thing where if you won it, you were going to go on to main event WrestleMania and choose the at the time, you would choose what championship, which world title you were going to go for. I think though, obviously, because Vince McMahon is Vince McMahon, if you went and challenged the world heavyweight championship, it really just depended who was the world champ and probably the politics behind the scenes. But the WWE championship 90% of the time was main eventing. I mean, we've seen that prime example, Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns, both years when Cody won Royal Rumble challenge and they main evented.
Right. So I think this will be a great thing if there is an elongated build to the entry into the match. Like you have to win qualifiers to get to this, to be
Okay.
part of this. If that happens, then it's going to be more, I think it'll be more enjoyable to me overall. Um, but like I said, I'm very split 50-50. I didn't dislike where it was before, but it seems like people are excited about it, which means if people are excited about it, I'm gonna be excited about it because if people are feeling the need to talk about it and get involved in it, then I'm gonna be like, great, good for you guys, awesome. So, um, are you okay with it? Like, are you just pleased with the format that's gonna be happening here?
Part of it, yes. I so I was of the mindset where I didn't mind future investment being at Resolution because it gave me earlier vibes of WrestleMania had Money in the Bank. Um, if you want to give it its own thing, I would have preferred to do it as future, like give future investment its own pay per view. let it be one of these pay-per-views where, yes, do it literally kind of like how WWE does like the Royal Rumble or War Games, where it's like the first match we're going to open with the men's future investment, and then the main event we're going to close with the women's future investment, and then whatever else you have booked for this show, even if you did a reduced card, let's just say hypothetically, staff, aka me and Jay, is like, I'm going to take a book out of Triple H's, notes, and he's only going to do 5 matches. So, you do 2 FIs, and then let's just say if you want to really get the engagement going, you do all 3 world titles, and then bada bing, bada boom. I also do not like the anywhere, anytime thing going away from it. I think, yes, it's cool that you're getting a guaranteed title shot at Summerside. I disagree with it. I think the FI person should make the FI relevant just like they should make themselves relevant, and kind of putting this hard, okay, you're getting a title match here. You're not really you're not allowed to carry it like C-Note or like John. I don't know if maybe they went against the anytime, anywhere because of just, personal dislike, or maybe wanting to ramp it more towards, having a set time to where this is in. So maybe champions or staff don't have to worry about someone randomly cashing in, and maybe perhaps throwing a torch on plans that are potentially trying to be built toward. But I would have liked it, give it its own event and let it still be anytime, anywhere. But I'm not hateful toward it. I am in the same boat as you, though. If we are going to have it at this dedicated event, and if we are going to have it at this, you're getting a title match at this point, I hope exactly what you said. There better be a proper build-up. I do not want to see random names thrown into this. Like, I want to see like names that make sense. I am not of the mind where former world champions don't have to be involved with it. I think if they're going to add a layer to it and help with it, throw them in, make it where it's not just randomly going to be, I'm not trying to be a dick, but like Alex Asher is going to win a future investment. Like, I want it to go to someone where like when whoever wins the FI, people are like, oh shit, like we might see a new champ. Like we're going to see, someone break out and, up themselves or regain their position. But
right, like what it is as it's being pitched, it's just a number 1 contenders match.
Yes, exactly.
So I dislike the idea of it not being anytime, any place, like anywhere. An element that I think would be interesting with it is if you win this contract, it's in there. There is a clause that you get to pick the match stipulation. Like there has to, I would like there to be some sort of advantage, because it used to be an advantage that you would have if you won it. You get to pick when it's going to happen. You can cash in after a match is taking place. Now it's just happening for a match. Mm-hmm. Therefore, there's no advantage to it anymore. It's just a number 1 contenders match. So if there's some sort of variable that's added into that, I think that would go great with it potentially. Like, okay, I won this, and I am now going to cash in whatever hardcore match, whatever. I don't fucking care. Like, take it. Like, what match are you good at? Like, I'm terrible. I'm terrible at hardcore matches and shit. Like, you just saw it. I got absolutely whooped, and I didn't even need weapons. Like, it's just the chaoticness of it killed me. I'm terrible at those things. So you win the FI. You got to cash in against me. We're going to make it as chaotic as possible, because I know Adam's CPU can't run it. He can't process this information as fast. There's your advantage. B17's an idiot in these kind of matches. So, I don't know. That's my thought. Real quick, let's go through this list, and then let's close it out here, because you asked me about previous FI holders. I have it up to 2018 now.
Yes.
All right.
Okay. Yes.
All right.
Yes.
I'm going to say a name, and you're just going to say liked it, disliked it, don't remember. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, 2023 C-Note.
Liked it.
2023 Flojo.
Didn't like it.
2022 John Carter.
Liked it.
2022 Harry Etiquette.
Loved it.
2021 Cassidy Hayes.
Loved it.
2021 La Mujera.
Loved it.
2020, Elliot Parker.
Hated it.
Sorry. 2019, Court Marshall.
Was not there.
I ended up taking it from him in a match.
Yes, I remember your steel cage match where you won it from him. That's how you were able to get into the chamber.
Yes. 2018, Jackson Montgomery.
Wasn't here.
Okay. That's all I have because those are the easiest ones to find. There's also going to be Rex on there. And there's going to be a few other names on there. But that's as far as I got to with the easy to find ones on YouTube. You said liked it for a majority of them. So
yes.
I liked them too. I never disliked it. I don't know what went on behind the scenes. I don't know all the interactions, and I don't need to. If things went sour or it just became stagnant, cool. That's fine. Change it up. Have fun with the changing up. I just hope it wasn't changed because of people disliking it or things just causing chaos in the background. Like, I don't want chaos to be unfolding for people trying to schedule things. So if that's what happened, I feel bad and great. Okay, I understand the change. But I've enjoyed what it's been. Like, there's been some good names. There's been some bad names on here too, but there's been some really prevalent names, and they led to some really big things. Court Marshall, him losing it to B17, I told him not to put it on the line. He wanted to, and we've publicly talked about that. Elliot Parker, there's that don't cash in on B17 thing. Like, I get it. Those things were iffy, but Elliot Parker's loss to me was like a huge pop. Like, he could have easily recovered from it. He chose not to recover from it.
100%.
Cassidy Hayes cashing in and ruining the main event, Nate Ortiz and Quartz, is going to be remembered forever. It's going to be remembered forever.
Oh yeah, okay? Especially with the antics behind it, how he kept calling it out, how he said, I'm gonna win this and I'm gonna ruin your match. Like,
yeah, so people are going to remember some of these moments. The Rex one's not on here, but Rex cashing in and that meme that was created of him fading away after he failed to cash in against me. People remember those things, even though they're failures to that person. People remember those, and those are fun moments. And guess what? There's going to be fun moments with whatever gets created with this next FI. It's going to happen. It's wherever it ends up going, I'm cool with it. Even if I dislike it, there's going to be moments, and I'm going to celebrate those moments. I'm going to be happy with those moments. But there were moments with the FI, and there were great ones. There's some bad ones, but there's some great ones too.
I think for me, when it comes to the FI and the decision making behind it, obviously, like you or me have no say into that. I actually am the opposite. I love the chaos aspect from it because, like, for example, I was a victim of it. Anniversary 19, I literally was anticipating to have a very much wanted rematch with Mark Reese. And I think it was Jay or Jamie, one of them were like, yo, when we're doing this match, there's something going on. And I was like, what? And then eventually it happened where Cena was like, yo, I'm cashing in. And I was like, oh shit. I think the one thing with C-Note specifically, I know, mind you, yet again, I don't know who made this decision. I wish he would have cashed in after the fact. I think that's my big thing with the FI is, funnily enough, I was thinking about it while you were saying about the list. The fact that if we are potentially running a tournament to making these people compete for it, and we are, building it up, I would almost want it to be anytime, anywhere, because, well, here's your reward. You went through hell to qualify. You went through hell to stay in. And you went through even extra hell to win that briefcase. So now you can cash in anytime, anywhere. And I think it's just because, for me, I almost feel like, and now yet again, people might have some crazy opinions on how I say this, but the FI should almost be a guaranteed title win. And it should almost be even crazier to watch a champion retain through it. Like, I don't remember I think the exact rules actually behind it, where if someone cashed in on the FI, whatever the champion, whatever the person who won that match was, they would round down. So if you were red, you would be orange. I think it should be fuck that round down, be whatever you stayed off at, and that person starts the match with a finisher. Like, it should be almost as if, like, dude, your reign's done. Like, sorry, not sorry, but this is their time. This is their moment. It's and I think maybe part of it was some of the, I don't know exactly who, and I'm not even going to start to think about names because I don't want to offend anyone. I wonder if maybe the people who held it and how some of them didn't really build up the FI as much as they should have. Okay, so you know what? Instead of changing it, make them defend it. Oh, okay, hypothetically, Adam, I'm holding the FI. I'm sitting on my laurels, not doing anything. And you know what? Maybe booking's like, hey, I don't really like that because this is a really big opportunity. You need to understand that. Okay, boom, B17 versus El Parca. The FI case is now on the line. Hopefully you learn your goddamn lesson. If you retain it and you're like, oh shit, like I should probably, make this a big ordeal because it is a big ordeal. You're going to hopefully become a world champion, take it serious, or just, I guess that also feeds into me saying like, yo, there better be, this better be loaded. Like, I'm not against seeing some big names involved with this because I know those big names will do what they need to do. Whereas at certain times I'm a little bit nervous for some of the, newer names or younger names because like, well, I haven't seen that investment, that dedication side. But, we'll see what happens with it. We have one last thing before we take it out, Adam, and that's because I will not lie to Rye. So he wants to know the 80 shows predictions. I have the card here. We will just bang this out very quickly. So this is not in the order of how the show might go, so just bear with me. So 4-way elimination match, Marissa versus Ashley versus Junko versus Dragana. What do you got?
Dragana.
I have Ashley. Twisted tag match, Jinx and C-Note versus B17 and Bash. You cannot comment on that, so don't say shit. I think B17 Superman punches Bash in the fucking face and walks out when C-Note gets the win. Monster Fatal 5-way, PD versus Devin versus Trey versus Nova versus Hagen. I'm almost certain this is over the top rope.
Right.
PD. Actually, no, Devin. Escape from New York City match, Iceman versus Bay. Did you say something? I'll break your neck. Iceman kills Bay. Mystery opponent versus Reese.
How am I supposed to predict that, Reese?
Okay. 2 out of 3 falls. I'm going to go mystery person just because I have to go against Reese, just because 50-50. 2 out of 3 falls. Baxter versus Sheldon. Sheldon as well. Mixed tag match, Flojo and Deaver versus Valkyrie and Paul Harris.
Paul Harris, Valk.
Yeah, same here. Falls count anywhere, John Carter versus Anthony Martin.
Carter.
Anthony Martin. And then the main event, this is, I know for a fact this will be a main event, but it is going to be an 80s hardcore street fight, Rex versus his victim.
It doesn't matter. Rex in the hardcore match, street fight, whatever. No matter what, it's Rex.
Yeah, he should just be like 100 overall for like these special one-off.
That would be so great.
Yeah, where he just
he's like, great. I'm not canon events where like we embrace the gimmicks and Rex is 100 overall in street fights. Yes, I love that.
He's like a super heavyweight. You can't lift him. You can't knock him down. He's 100%. Like you just can't do anything to him. Yeah, dude, I think that'd be fucking awesome. I am going to also go Rex. Before we end it off here, I do just have to yet again, because I don't know if maybe just me being an edgelord on Discord has made some people sway their opinions on me, but I want to say congratulations yet again to all of OCW, a community that does participate within OCW. You might not like me, we might not get along, but at the end of the day, I see everyone doing what they do for OCW, and that's an insane pat on the back. This is not just a hobby. This is a hob job. At the end of the day, the amount of time that all of us invest into this is seriously insane, probably borderline psychotic. So for anyone who has made any form of content, whether you're writing consistently, making videos, doing matches, doing feuds, doing commentary, doing booking, no matter what, if you are a part of the OCW community, my insane hats off to you. This past year has been probably one of the best years OCW has ever had in its entire history. A personal congratulations to you, Adam. You are on a run that I did not see coming. I absolutely doubted you, and I did not think you would return to fashion that the way that you have, and I'm extremely happy to see that you have done that. I'm extremely proud of you. For every person in OCW, just also know that sentiment sits with you as well. I'm proud of every single person that is a part of this community. Yet again, we all don't have to like each other. We all don't have to get along 24/7, but take a bow. This has been a fucking incredible year. I hope you all had a wonderful holiday, whichever holiday you celebrate with your family. I hope you're all safe. I hope you all have a very safe new year. And I can't wait to see what the future brings us. That is my closing bit. Adam, floor is yours.
All right, I'm gonna echo some of your statements. Like, you don't have to like everybody in OCW. You don't have to get along with everybody in OCW. Like, everybody has different perspectives. Everybody has different opinions, and you're gonna clash with people sometimes. And one of the questions that Junko had asked earlier really does ring true. Why did I dislike the Hoot so much back in the day? Because I was unable to recognize that I can be problematic too. I was unwilling to bend and recognize that I can make mistakes too, that I'm going to do dumb things, that I'm going to say dumb things, and I would get angry when I got called out on those things. Nowadays, I recognize they're not bad people, and we don't have bad people in OCW. We've had bad people in OCW. There have been really shitty people in OCW. Yeah, we got some people that are assholes, like, because they're blunt, and we have people that are a little annoying, absolutely. But you're not going to like everybody. You're not going to get along with everybody. You got to work with everybody, though. You have to find a way to build with each other because ultimately, as Pew says, that is how it gets better. People working and interacting with each other. So recognize, look, you're not perfect either, and you're going to make mistakes, and you're going to say dumb things, and accept that, and take fault when you do those things. Like, if you're going to be that way, accept that other people are going to respond to you. Ultimately, we've had a good year. We've done really good things. I'm really happy with what I've done this year. I'm really happy with some of the things I've seen this year. Yeah, I'm not going to be happy with everything, and that's okay. You're not going to be happy with everything, and that's okay too. But respect each other, be kind to each other, and if you're going to disagree with somebody, disagree with them in the proper way. That's all I have. This has been Let's Talk OCW, and my partner. Thank you so much for joining me. Take care.
Peace out, y'all.